Hi, so another iron test. This time it's the new Ping I525, the new Rogue ST from Callaway Pro, and the D9 Forged from Wilson, and we've also got the P790 in there for good measure, just to see what they can do against one of the most popular irons in this segment, which is the player's distance irons. I'm quite excited to see the new Callaway and also the I525 and the Wilson go up against each other. I want to see how they feel and the distance that they go. These irons are a category which has grown and grown, and it's something which fits a lot of golfers. So it isn't just low handicappers, it can be people into the sort of early teens in handicap, and especially for people who do maybe miss it left, that sort of thing, because they don't have a lot of offset on them, these clubs. So they're good if your habitual miss is a little bit like you're fighting a hook or something like that. Not so good maybe if you're a bit of a slicer. You might be better going for something like the Stealth or something in that area to help you out. So I'll just get on with hitting these, and I think I'll start off with the Callaway. Okay, so this is the Rogue ST Pro from Callaway. In terms of initial thoughts, looks absolutely brilliant to me. Looks as bladey as any of these distance irons look. It's only when you look at the sole that you realise there's a bit of thickness to it, and that's where all the internal technology must be. A lot of these clubs are hollow inside and they have weighting distributed around the sides, so they may look like blades but they play like forgiving irons. So back of this club, just you know, you'd be proud to have that in your set, you know, especially I'm a pro but I don't play a huge amount, so I need something which helps me. And if you've got something in your bag which looks a wee bit too game improvement, you know, people look at you like, oh, what you got those for? I thought you were meant to be a pro. But if I had these in the bag, you know, this looks bladey enough. I could get away with this quite happily. When you put them down, the top line is pretty thin, really, compared to some of the other ones in this market. They're all reasonably thin, these sorts of clubs on top line. Not a lot of offset either. So it's just how I like a club to look. I mean, if I was being really picky, I'd probably say I like an even thinner top line than that. But in actual fact, I can't have my cake and eat it, because I can't get the forgiveness out of something that has a thinner top line and this sort of thing, where it's just thin enough for it to look okay, but all the technology in behind it helping me out, giving me the distance and allowing me to hit less club than I've ever hit before. So I'll hit a few and see what we get. I think that was an okay strike. Yeah, 187. Another decent one, I think. 188. Yeah, it goes a long way. It does go a long way. For something that looks so thin, it goes a long way. Now, forgive me for quoting total distance. Getting into trouble for this a lot, but 175 is a carry on that. And I know that a lot of courses that you guys play on, you need to know the carry. Total distance here, where I play at the East Links in North Berwick and Gullen as well in East Lothian, total distance is actually the one that I find works better for me, because we get a hard bounce, really big hard bounce, which will bounce maybe 10 yards, and then the ball will either, depending on how well you've hit it, stop on that sort of second, third bounce quite quickly, or even slightly release out after the spins come off it. So you can quite often get 10 to 15 yards from where it lands to where it actually settles. So a lot of the time the total distance for me actually works. A little bit out the toe, I think. Still did quite well. That wasn't a great strike, and it still went 170 in the air, 182. Sorry, I should say this is a 7-iron. I just assumed that everybody would know it was a 7-iron without me saying it. But that's the demo clubs that all manufacturers give us, are always 7-irons. That's 172, 185, that was a better strike. Bit of a thinner strike, 73 carry, 186. Really strong distances for something that looks so slim and bladey. That was a bad strike, really quite a bad strike. See, I'm interested to see how far that goes. 176, 159. So not bad. Right, one more of these and then move on to the other one. felt quite good. 184, 171, so pretty strong. So just unwrapping the I525 because I haven't actually hit it yet. So came in the other day, quite excited to try this. I really like the i500 as a club. I used to sell lots of those. And to people who probably came in never thinking that they could handle a club that looked like this, it basically to them looked like a blade. But when you put it in people's hands, it's so powerful, it's so forgiving, and it looks good as well. So best of both worlds. So when I look at the back of this, I think the slight revisions to the i500, it still looks really nice. When you put it down, again, very thin top line compared to the Callaway. Difficult to tell, but they're the same or even slightly thinner looking. In terms of shafts, by the way, I'm just using all shafts that are very similar, slightly different makes because I don't have the same one for every eventuality, but around about the 100-gram steel shaft mark. So they're reasonably light and they're stiff. Didn't feel like a great strike. Still gone 186, 173 in the air, that's good. 187, 172. Another good one. 179 in the air, 193 for a 7-iron. That is really impressive for me. That's further than I'm used to hitting. That was a bad strike. Still gone 172 and 187. That's what I mean about the forgiveness of these clubs. You know, they do look really quite bladey, but there's an awful lot of technology built into this, and it really does help you on off-center hits. And that's the difference between something that is almost a full-out blade, better players club, something that a very, very low handicap would use, and a Tour Pro, compared to something that almost looks like it, but packs a lot more forgiveness and distance in it. It's a bit right, but it's okay hit. Still went 174 in the air, 188. Hit it high as well. Wow. That was heavy. Still got 184, was it 168 or something to carry? Wow. Okay, so on to the Wilson D9. What I would say as well about these clubs is they're all 30.5 degrees of loft. So they're all identical for once. Quite often there's a difference between the loft. So it's a really even test, this. That's strong obviously for a 7-iron, but it's not as strong as some of them, like the Stealth Iron, for example, is 28 and the Wilson D9 is 27. So there's still a bit to go in them if you really wanted to. You generally, if you haven't used a club like this before, you will usually find you're going down a club at least. Sometimes people are going down 2 clubs, but they really are powerful. The D9, I've ordered a set of these. I use Wilson D7 forged at the moment, and I've ordered a set of the D9 forged because I saw them from the rep before they came out, and I just thought they looked really nice and a sort of natural successor to what I had. So I've ordered these. So I know this is good, but I'll hit some just to see how it fares up directly against the others. That was a bit thin. Yeah, not a very good strike. The TaylorMade and the Ping all have forged faces, and the Callaway is the only one that doesn't. In terms of the feel of the Callaway, it does feel and sound a wee bit harder than some of these other ones. Not by much, but it's a little bit more of a smack of a noise rather than a slightly softer noise that you get with the other 3. In terms of the look of the D9, it's a nice chrome, sort of traditional chrome sort of finish. It looks better on the back than the D7 Forge did. I think they've improved it. I think when you put it down, it's a slightly bigger looking head maybe than a couple of the others. Possibly. Is that right? No, not really. The head, when you put it down, is a nice shape. It's slightly more rounded maybe than the others. It's still got quite a thin top line. I think possibly the Ping might be slightly thinner. Again, very little offset, virtually none. And just a nice looking club, quite an inviting, sort of friendly looking club to hit. I shouldn't have ordered a set of these, I'm making them rubbish. Worst of the bunch so far is the set I've ordered. It's a bit better. 82, 170, so it's up there with the rest of them. Now that's what I find this, pretty close to all of those, and a very nice soft feel Probably the softest of the lot, to be honest. Pushed a wee bit again. Decent strike. Yeah, 174 in there, 186. So it's strong distance and coupled to a soft feel. And I'll come on to price just at the end, because that's a big factor in these. Bit of a toe strike. See how it does on a bad strike. Not quite as good. Seemed okay. 189, 176. Can be slightly closed on that, possibly, to make it left a little bit. One more. That's a bit thin, so low in the face. But again, good to test these out. Just as well I'm not as consistently good at hitting the ball. 170 for 184 off a thin strike, so again, good. On to the P790. Now, I've done a test on this before. We all know this looks good. Nice sort of sandblasted finish with a little chrome bit in there. Nice looking club. Top line, reasonably thin top line. Very little offset again. Not a great strike. How does it do on that sort of strike? 171 carry, 184, so really strong there on a miss hit. That's one of the big differences I noticed on these clubs as opposed to the likes of the Wilson Staff CB that I had as a set for a little while. If I miss hit these, I still get up somewhere and around the green, somewhere where the distance I was meant to be. Whereas if you miss hit something, it's a little bit less forgiving. You're pitching or you're chipping properly from 10, 15, 20 yards short. And that can make a big difference to your score. That was thin. Not a very good batch on the P790. And this is the thing you have to watch when you go for a fitting. I've said it before, that if you have a bad batch, that you aren't just blaming a bad batch on a club and saying, well, that club's no good, you know, doesn't go as far, didn't hit it as well. Could be something in the makeup of the club and the shaft and all the rest of it, but invariably it's you know, input error, that if you have a bad batch of balls, the club doesn't look very good. Currently I'm having a bad batch with this P790. Again, I think I left it out to the right. Decent strike, 170, 184. So you're still getting to see that it's going the same sort of distances as all the others. I think it was decent. A little bit of left. 187, 173 carry. Right, one more with the P790. Bit heavy. It's gone quite far. It's a nice club, it always has been, always will be. But we need to talk about price because there's a bit of a difference between these. So the most expensive, if you check online, the Ping, which is 1,169 for a 40 pitching wedge at 7 irons. Next most expensive is the P790, and that's coming in around about 1,099 for 7 irons. And then the E9 forged, not the cheapest of Wilson, but the cheapest of the ones that have a forged face by quite some way, 879 for 7 irons, so hugely cheaper. And then the Callaway, which I actually think is one of the biggest bargains this year, 40 pitching wedge, 849. Now I know 849 at one time would have sounded like an arm and a leg for a set of irons, but these days that for something this premium and this good is an absolute bargain. I mean, the only thing you're missing with this is the forged feel off the face, and if you can live without that, I mean, when you strike a ball, even with this sort of harder steel out of the middle, the softish sort of ball, still feels good. You know, you're not really missing that much. You can, if you hit them back to back, notice that the forged faces feel a bit, and it's actually sound. They sound a little bit different. They don't sound, it's not as high pitched a sound. You get a duller, softer noise, and that's what you perceive as feel. So in terms of how this looks, I think it's one of the best looking out of the lot. And for it to be the cheapest by absolutely miles in a couple of cases is incredible. I recommend them all. If you want ultimate forged face one and you don't want to pay too much, then the Wilson's the one to go for. Equally, the I525i and the P790 are really good looking clubs and obviously perform every bit as good as any of these do. But they don't perform any better. And for 849, that really is good. Right, so averages are up there. I don't know if you might be able to read them from there, but I'll tell you. That was the Callaway 116 ball speed, 117 for the Ping, 117 for the D9 Wilson, 117 for the TaylorMade. So they're virtually all the same. Launches are all range of sort of 19.5, 19, 18, 18.5. So similar spin rates, roughly. Yeah, I mean, it depends a lot on the batch. Sometimes you don't hit them quite as well. There was the lowest spin was on the Ping, the highest spin was on the Wilson, higher spin. But I think that's a lot to do with batch. I don't think that's actually the club. And then carry, 170 in the Callaway, 173 Ping, 168 Wilson, 169 TaylorMade. So they're really, really similar. Again, could have just been the batch. And then total 184 actually in the Callaway, 187 on the Ping, 181 on the D9 and 182 on the TaylorMade. So again, virtually nothing in it. So really, really close, as I thought they might well be, especially when the lofts are all very similar. And I think the only difference really can be put down to the fact that I don't hit them the same every time. Right, so what I want to finish off with is just an ultimate distance test and see how far I can hit these when I go on full power. This is the Callaway, 2 shots each. Ultimate distance test. That was a good strike. 9.8. Oh, I don't know if I hit it. Nice and straight, but I don't think I hit it. No, we're mere 197. Right, let's see what the Ping can do at full pelt. Thrash mode. Felt alright. Nice straight shot. I should maybe just do this all the time. 203. Flippin' heck. Right, okay. One more. Don't know if I can beat that. Don't know if it was as good a strike. Good height. I should just hit it like that. 205. Wow. Well, I'm not having that actually. I'm going to have one more go with the Callaway, because I don't think it's any different. Definitely a higher pitched sound, but it's not bad. 200. I could have hit that better, to be honest. Wilson, let's see if Wilson can get over the 200 barrier. Don't know. I think it was alright. A little bit right. Oh, 199. Right, got another go though. Not a good strike. That's what happens when all clubs, when you don't hit them out the middle, you lose ball speed and therefore distance. Right, come on, TaylorMade. I think it was alright, but I don't know if it's a 200 job. A bit too far right, too high. No. Right, so got to finish off with Wilson and TaylorMade getting to 200 before we go home for the night. Just turning, it was quite a nice short video, and now it's all gone long because I can't get these over 200. Right, for some reason you don't know what's going on behind the scenes here, but the camera keeps stopping every time I'm halfway through trying to do this 200 challenge. So I've been at it for ages, but it'll be seamlessly edited obviously, so you won't realise that. But I did actually get over 200 with the Wilson and the TaylorMade. Yeah, the Wilson and the TaylorMade, they were the two that didn't do it. I'm going to hit one shot each, just hopefully while the camera's still running, and then summarise this whole thing. So this is the Wilson. At least it was a decent strike. Yeah, see? Now you believe me, 205. And then the TaylorMade. That was a shocker. You heard me say it, this is the last one. Okay, I'm not hitting any more after this. Hold me to it. Better be good. Oh, it's a bit thin. Right, one sneaky one more. One sneaky one more. Right, that is it. This is the final one. Oh, it's flushed a wee bit better, that one. A wee bit left, but don't care, because it's an all-out distance challenge. I decided to set it for no reason. There you go, 202. So I have done it on film, and hopefully the camera's still running. So just to summarise, I find myself saying this a lot. They're all good, but they do make good products these days. You know, they're no idiots. There's guys behind the scenes researching day and night to make these all good, so they don't ever put anything on the market that isn't good. It's a lot of the time it's what you like the look of and what you like the feel of. So if you're in the market for one of these Player's distance irons, you probably can't go wrong, to be honest, and it depends a bit on budget and feel, which is sound and looks. The highlights for me, I really think the Rogue ST Pro is a bit of a bargain, you know, 849, and also the Wilson. If you were putting those two, which are a bit priced more similar, up against each other, you'd maybe say the Wilson was slightly edged it just on the sound. But then you could argue, well, some people might like the look of the ST Pro better. And the two expensive ones, P790, I525, they do look nice as well, but they don't actually have a performance advantage I can see over the other ones. But they are nice, and if that's what ticks your box, then go for it and you won't go wrong. Anyway, that'll do me. Hope you enjoyed that. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments box, and remember to subscribe and like, please. And I'll see you in the next one.